China uses politicians in countries, it uses weak politicians. Politicians who want money. And then perhaps the Chinese decided that the Canadians cannot be trusted. Best is to interfere in their elections and best is to control them rather than being partners with them. I'm shocked. How can you just simply say something like that without proof? And here, in the other case, in China's interference case, his own intelligence agency is saying, sir, here is the proof. China interfered. Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Friends, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, the CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, has come out with a report saying that China interfered in Canada's elections. Now, there has been a lot of talk going on of this country interfering in that country's elections, but this is slightly different. So far, Bill Gates has said that China is trying to interfere using AI. It's trying to interfere in India's elections. Canada has accused India of interfering in Canada's elections. But, mostly when Canada says something, it's mostly political rhetoric. And I think Justin Trudeau is playing to the Khalistanis gallery. That's all. It's a very, very small country, Canada, with hardly any population, hardly any politics, which is why a few Khalistanis are able to go there and able to control the prime minister of that country, because that country it's actually, forget about the land size, when you talk about the population, when you talk about the assets, when you talk about the financial and diplomatic muscle that Canada has, it's a very small country. It's an extremely small country. It lives in the shadow of the United States of America, which is why there is this, let's give it a movie terminology, when a superstar walks, lesser people who are walking with him also feel like stars. And I think that is what is happening to Canada here. And I'm not being very harsh about it, but the Canadian Security Intelligence Services has said that China interfered in Canadian elections. They said that they interfered in 2019. Now, this is serious because this is not political rhetoric. This comes from a professional agency. Like the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS is a professional body. It's a known professional body of spies and intelligence operatives. And they say that China interfered in the Canadian elections in 2019 and 2021. And both the times when China interfered in Canada's elections, the party that came to power, whether it is the provincial elections or whether the union elections or the central elections, the party that came to power was the Liberal Party. Now, the Liberal Party is obviously headed by Justin Trudeau, which means that Chinese agents or the Chinese deep state directly was responsible for bringing Justin Trudeau to power and bringing other people of Justin Trudeau's party to power. Now, when initially these allegations were made, Justin Trudeau, as usual, he's like a child sometimes. He behaves in a very juvenile sort of fashion. He threw a fit and he said, let there be a commission and let the commission find out. So there was this huge commission which went into investigating as to how the Chinese had interfered and whether there was any truth in these accusations or not. And then they asked the CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, they asked them, tell us, is it true? And then they got all these guys together, people who were part of that commission, the fact-finding body. And they said, sir, come, we'll show you something. Ping, laptop. They gave them a presentation actually. The CSIS gave them a presentation and they said, sir, we have definite proof that China interfered and the Liberal Party of Canada benefited from Chinese interference. They also said that the Chinese were very strategic in their choice of candidate. If anybody supported China, they ensured that he won. If anybody was neutral, they did not harm. But if anybody, like for example, the other party, the opposing party, the opposition party to Justin Trudeau, they were saying that they raised their voices in the parliament. In the Canadian parliament, they said that the Uyghur Muslims in China are under threat and 1.5 million have been put in prison for no fault of theirs. Their only crime being that they are Muslim and China should not do it. We condemn it and we call upon China to free everybody there. And they also said that Huawei, this Chinese company, we don't want to engage with them because obviously they're assets of the Chinese state and they'll be using their electronics and their software and their hardware to sort of spy on us, keep tabs on us, and we should not engage with this company, especially during the 5G rollout. China did not like it. So anybody who opposed China, opposed Chinese companies, they lost the elections. And people like Justin Trudeau, who kowtowed to the Chinese, they won the election. And this is not India saying it. This is not America or anybody saying it. This is the Canadian intelligence service. They said that our elections have been compromised. And the people who benefited are Justin Trudeau's party. So you can imagine how deeply the Chinese are ingrained. And this whole thing, I think sometimes that China uses politicians in countries, it uses weak politicians. Politicians who want money, politicians who are willing to, let's say, compromise upon their ideals. Justin Trudeau is the absolute correct candidate for this. So China will interfere in elections of Canada and they'll say, okay, let's prop up Justin Trudeau. And then Justin Trudeau does exactly what China tells them. Now, Justin Trudeau, of course, being his father's son, his father was a crackpot also. His father was the guy who protected the Khalistanis who bombed the Kanishka. Air India, famous Air India aircraft was bombed, Kanishka bombings. I think over 300 people died, if I'm not mistaken, a large number of them Canadians of Indian origin, and they just killed them. And his father protected the terrorists. The son is also like that, Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was in a secret meeting with, he was in a secret meeting with Xi Jinping, and when I say secret, I mean that both the heads of state had agreed that, listen, we don't want to share with other people, we don't want to share with the media what we've discussed, and let's keep it under wraps until there is a more fruitful outcome, and then we'll share it with the media together. But the understanding was that nobody would go to the media, and there is Justin Trudeau, and this happened several years back. Justin Trudeau sitting in one chair and Xi Jinping sitting in one chair, and they have a very cordial conversation. But the problem was that as soon as the doors opened, there was the media outside, and all they had to do was wave to the media and walk. And the security would have taken care of the rest. But Justin Trudeau, being Justin Trudeau, could not stop himself. He actually started speaking to the media and he spilled the beans. He spilled the beans. And here is a photograph of Xi Jinping getting furious with Justin Trudeau. Xi Jinping actually cornered Justin Trudeau. And he was absolutely furious with him. And he said, we had an understanding, we had a deal that you would not talk to the media. Why did you do it? And Justin Trudeau, spineless, weak man said, no, actually in Canada we practice freedom of speech, etc. And therefore I had to talk to the media and we don't hide anything from our media, etc. Xi Jinping gave this man hell. He gave him hell. And then perhaps the Chinese decided that the Canadians cannot be trusted. Best is to interfere in their elections and best is to control them rather than being partners with them. So today, I think this whole thing about this Khalistan thing that is happening in Canada, and the reason why Justin Trudeau is fast losing popularity in Canada, and this entire Khalistani nexus, this is all, China bit by bit, is digging its claws deeper and deeper into the Canadian political landscape. Recently, all those people who had Canadian politicians who had spoken against China, right? There's a large Chinese population in Canada, people of Chinese origin who are now Canadian citizens, and they protested. And the candidates lost their elections because they said that how can you say anything against China? And China is such a lovely country. I don't understand, if China is such a lovely country, why in God's name did you leave China and come to Canada? So what Justin Trudeau has done is he's put these agents everywhere, given them citizenship, given them equal rights, and now these people question Canada. They don't question a politician. So it's not about questioning a politician. It's about questioning the very basis of Canada's national security. Whether it's the Khalistanis or whether it's the Chinese. They will keep on working in tandem, undermining Canada's national security. And I think this is exactly what Justin Trudeau deserves. If Canada is to be saved, Justin Trudeau must lose this coming election. If he loses, if he goes home, and he's given an indication that he's not interested in politics. He says, I get up every morning trying to figure out what am I doing here, and this is not meant for me. Of course it's not meant for you. You have run Canada into the ground. Let a good man take over and lead Canada back to its former glory. Now, Erin O'Toole, former leader of the Conservative Party, alleged that Chinese interference may have cost his party up to 9 seats in the 2021 election, though it didn't affect the outcome. You understand? These are responsible politicians, heads of political parties making these statements publicly saying that China has interfered in our elections. China denies any involvement in Canadian politics despite the findings. Now, there are two things. The CSIS has given proof to everybody that China is interfering. But is Justin Trudeau taking China's name? No, he dare not. Next time Xi Jinping meets him, Xi Jinping will slap Justin Trudeau in his face. So, in spite of his Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, actually telling their bosses or Justin Trudeau that, hey, the Chinese are interfering in our elections. They're doing absolutely nothing. There is no shout out from the Canadian Parliament. Justin Trudeau is not standing on the floor of the Parliament and saying, hey, the Chinese are coming, and because he's a beneficiary of Chinese interference. And somebody kills Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And because this guy does not benefit, he doesn't care about the diplomatic relations between India and Canada and the long friendship, decades of friendship that both the countries have shared. And he's absolutely shameless, this guy. He stands up on the floor of the Parliament and he says, India has killed this Nijjar fellow. I'm shocked. How can you just simply say something like that without proof? And here, in the other case, in China's interference case, his own intelligence agency is saying, sir, here is the proof. China interfered, and he's not saying anything. Why? As I mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Trudeau is a beneficiary. He's a direct beneficiary of Chinese interference in Canadian elections. That is why he won the elections. Okay. Now, in 2023, a conservative legislator with ties to Hong Kong was targeted in such a campaign, resulting in the suspension of a senior Chinese diplomat. This is the level. This conservative legislator had ties to Hong Kong. He could have been originally from Hong Kong and may have his own political views. Suspension of a senior Chinese diplomat because the Chinese embassy and their consulates in Canada actively go ahead and not just engage with the Chinese community, which is a good thing, you must. Every embassy must engage with their own community, and the Indians do it and the Chinese do it, and good for them. You should do that. But interfering in the host country's elections, China does it as a matter of policy. As of the report, the Chinese embassy is yet to respond to CSIS statement regarding China's interference in Canadian elections. Now, first China said no, and when later the proof was given, the Chinese said that no comments for now, and we are not going to comment on it and give us some time. So they are taking it easy. But these are shocking revelations. They are out in the open. And one thing I cannot understand. Again, I'll repeat it. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep on repeating this. When his own intelligence agency gives him proof, why can't Justin Trudeau stand in Parliament and say the Chinese are interfering in our elections? Why doesn't he have the moral courage? It's not that Justin Trudeau is scared of the Chinese, though that could be a reason, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is that he is a beneficiary. Justin Trudeau wants the Chinese to interfere in Canadian elections, because if he wants to win again, he can't do it without Chinese help. This is exactly that he's hoping for. Now, for the question and answers, I've got two questions, and Parth Popat says, Namaste Gauravji. Namaste Parthji, could you do a breakdown of External Affairs Minister's interview with Mr. Goswami? He said China grew from 1990 to 2010 during easier times. Bharat is growing during a phase where there is a need to worry where US, EU and China are going. What did he mean? I have no idea. Parthji, I have no idea. I did not watch this interview. I think you're referring to Arnab taking the interview of External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of this interview. I have not seen that interview, so I cannot comment. But I would like to state here, because this makes a lot of sense actually. China grew when there were no impediments in China's path. China was encouraged by the West. China was encouraged by the United States of America. China was encouraged by Europe. All these companies said, we will share technology with China. You make in China. Give us cheap goods. Everybody, this is all Wall Street fueled and Wall Street funded, this whole China nonsense. Wall Street said, here is a washing machine. This washing machine costs $5,000. Can we get it in $2,000? China said, yes, sir. You can retail it at $2,000 or $1,000 or $1,500 in the US. Who doesn't want cheap stuff? That is what China did. But India, when China was growing, India was not. Right? And there was no other major manufacturing powerhouse when China was growing. China had a free run. Today, India has a problem because China has already grown. China has a huge chunk of that market. India is trying to break into that market, successfully, of course. But India is trying to break into the market. And also, there are so many other things here. There are so many other things, so many pulls and pressures. Ukraine war, the Israel war with Hamas, all these things. This is never ending, absolutely. So India faces a more uphill task than China. And let me assure you that India has done incredibly well given the circumstances. Once upon a dime, China has been bankrupting every country that disrespect India in our neighborhood. Do you think China is disguised best friend for India? Should Indian foreign policy take lessons? No, I don't think that's the case. China has bankrupted everything it has come in contact with. China is like cancer. Whichever country deals with China, right? Whether it's Pakistan. There are so many countries in Africa that China has bankrupted, which we have nothing to do with. People that, or countries that Prime Minister Modi has stood up for, which Dr. Jaishankar refers to as the Global South. China's target is the Global South. Small countries, any small country, political instability, corrupt elite, China will grab that opportunity. That is what China is doing, nothing to do with India. And I think China's foreign policy is pretty short-sighted. It's not a long-term foreign policy because, people tend to head back. This is short-term. It's euphoria generating, at least for the Chinese, and they think they're the cat's whiskers, but it's going to get them soon. I'm very sure it's going to get them soon. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata ki Jai.